Morning mental case. Do you know it's not hard to find things funny in the world. Now, you don't actually have to think of comedy. It just presents itself. This morning I was flicking through some ABC news, and there was news of what? A newsagent in Kalgoorlie who had to stop selling her golliwogs. I'm glad she had golliwogs, and I'm glad that she was forced to give them up, because I needed both those things to occur to get my morning gag, because it's all about me. It's not about the issue. It's not about anything else. It's about me. Because I need a morning funny, and I got one. Now, she was also, this newsagent, forced to take in a sign. The sign outside her newsagent in Kalgoorlie said something like, "No entry if you haven't washed," or if you haven't worn your shoes, if you haven't got any shoes, no entry, or if you're dirty, and a few other things like that. So there was some comedy in that as well. Within the article, I don't even have to think of a joke this morning. Hey, by the way, we've got a cat. Can you see the flashy, hang on. Can you see the flashing light going around there? That's a CD, or a couple of CDs my daughter has hung up. And the sun shines on the CDs and scares the cats away. All right, from the chickens, yeah, because the cat's been sitting up there, just watching the chickens. The animal kingdom, it's evil. We are a member of the animal kingdom. Do the maths. Okay. So, I don't think comedy's hard. You don't actually have to be funny. That's how I'm winning. And I think a lot of people over in history have noticed this, People from Jane Austen, through to people like John Cleese doing his Faulty Towers thing, through to Seinfeld, which I really like, and 100 others, and a million others. They just watch people around them, and these guys aren't funny. It's the people around them that are funny. This newsagent in Kalgoorlie is funny. She's a funny thing. Anyway, what happened was, you can guess the rest. She was forced to take in the sign that said, "No riffraff." John Cleese had such a sign. See what I mean? It's all the same. Now, if I were to make a show about life in Kalgoorlie, you could do that. It'd be hilarious. Who else did that? What's his name? Who's been banned recently? Chris Lilly. He did some things like that. Just watched everyone around him, and then made a show about that. I don't know if he's got any politics or not. I think in an absolutely amoral way, he wanted to make some comedy. He probably hasn't got a moral bone in his body, which is a great thing. Now, if you were to make a show about Kalgoorlie, life in Kalgoorlie, this newsagent would have a starring role. She has been selling golliwogs for 15 years. So you'd put that in the show. Yeah, I reckon she looks like Pauline Hanson. What do you think? And some activist or whatever, Aboriginal maybe, has managed to force her by means that I didn't even read about, to take away the golliwogs and to take in that sign. And in the following moment, in the article that I read, is, this is the punchline that you'd put in your comedy show. She took in a sign. She had a sign saying, look, it was targeting Indigenous people, but it was also targeting just about everyone I'm related to, all my family and friends, and me, myself, because I always shop with no shoes on. That's my goddamn right. I love my country. I love my flag. And I love Jesus Christ, my Saviour. Yeah. Anyway, so the sign said no riffraff. You know, and Basil Fawlty had a sign like that in one of his episodes of Fawlty Towers. No riffraff. You know, and Basil Fawlty's wife said, you can't do that. You know, and there could be an activist who fights for the rights of Riffraff, who could have that episode banned. You know, that Fawlty Towers episode should be banned, you know, because it's unfairly targeting Riffraff. You know. But back to this show on Kalgoorlie, you could. Oh, that white one's a mental. She's been ostracised by the others for good reason. You know, she's a psycho. I'd ostracise her. All right, so if you were making a show about, you know, Kalgoorlie, life in Kalgoorlie, a golden life or something, in amongst the gold, you would now in the article, she said, further along in the article, she said, it's ridiculous. Now, keep in mind that she's basically said, no one except people who are just like me are allowed in this shop. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Everybody who's ever come into this shop has loved the golliwogs. Isn't that brilliant? You know, you make a comedy about that, and you'd put her in there, and she hasn't tweaked herself. You know, she's let only people like herself into her shop, and they've all agreed with her that the golliwogs are a great thing. Wonderful. Now you can make a show about that, and in the act of making that show, well, the show would be banned, you know, because the show would include images of golliwogs. Well, this is why, you know, this is why people who want the best things, like, you know, the banning of golliwogs, are self-defeating, you know, because I would have that comedy, you know, but a lot of people would get it banned. And I know this because Basil Fawlty, you know, he John Cleese, he looked around him in his world, and he saw, and I know this is true, you know, this will happen to you if you try and make a show like that about Kalgoorlie with all the best intentions, or no intentions at all. But the point is, you know, some valuable comedy will go west, but only as far as Kalgoorlie. What's his name? John Cleese looked around him, and he noticed there was a certain type of person in his era, which was that type of person that's an old racist from the war years. You know, so he invented a character called the Major. You know, and the Major would be similar to this Newsagent lady. And you know, similar to the way that I would have the Newsagent lady saying, you know, this is ridiculous. You know, aside, like, you know, if you were making the movie, you would have a screenshot, you know, not a screenshot, but you'd have some footage just before you walked into the Newsagent of this sign. No riffraff allowed, no Indigenous people allowed, blah, 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 you know. And you'd go into the shop, and there'd be golliwogs up on the shelf. And you'd say, hey, oh, gee, what about those golliwogs? And she'd say, you're not one of them, are you? I'd say, well, I'm not disclosing that, but what about those golliwogs? She'd say, well, everyone who comes in here loves them. You know, so there's nothing wrong with that. You know? Now, John Cleese had something similar, you know. He had the Major in his show, in which, you know, and he noticed these old fossils from the war years who saved our country. I love my country. And he thought, that's hilarious. This guy's a damned racist. I'm going to make fun of this guy. And he put this guy into his show, Fawlty Towers. And then the activists got the show banned. Yeah, they're self-defeating, those guys. But But that's all right, because then you can make a show about them. You know, and then you can make a show about, you know, an idiot in his backyard talking about comedy, videoing his chickens. You know, it goes on and on. You know, but the point is, this is the colour of the world. We're all insane, and I'm not interested in nailing anything in a political way or anything like that. I'm absolutely amoral, as one should be if one is into comedy. Absolutely amoral. Here comes Nutcase. But the only important thing is that the world stays hilarious. And I think there is no danger of the world stopping being hilarious.